This week's 80/20 question of the week is incredibly powerful and also very unique. This 80/20 question is actually not one that you ask yourself, but rather one that you ask your customers. And I am very excited to share it with you today because this single question has changed the entire direction of my company, not once, but twice. My name is Tim Francis from ProfitFactory.com and the creator of the 80/20 Challenge. Back in October 2015, I was working extremely hard as a consultant. The more the company grew, the harder that I had to work because everything depended on me. So I wanted to find a way to package up what I do, maybe create an online course or something like that. The more I thought about it, the more that I realized helping people get a great assistant was something that I was very, very good at. So I decided on creating an online course to help people get a great assistant. I brainstormed the modules that I would need. I thought about the kind of technology I would use to deliver the course. I had it all figured out. I decided I would do one last thing though, before I went into production mode. I decided to get customer feedback. Some friends of mine, John and Jeremy, were hosting an entrepreneur's mastermind in Austin, Texas. Literally, people flew in from around the world, as far as away from China, to come in to be a part of this mastermind. So I showed up with my modules all listed out in a PDF document, printed out all the pages, and handed every single one of the attendees a copy of the modules that I wanted to put into my online course. Suddenly, silence filled the room. And I knew that this was either going to be really favorable feedback or really bad feedback. Robert from Nashville piped up and he said, "All right, Tim, I'm going to break the ice. Love the outcome of helping people get a great assistant. Absolutely dislike the delivery. There's no way as an overworked entrepreneur that I'm gonna find an extra 10 hours to study your method, then spend 2 weeks implementing it, then spend 3 weeks onboarding and training a new assistant, only to wonder at the end if I've actually done it right." And around people went with their feedback, and for the most part, everybody had the same opinion as Robert. Even though I was a little demoralized, I gotta tell you, I was incredibly relieved that I had just dodged a bullet. I had almost spent 40 to 50 hours of work building something that in the end, people may not have wanted. So I tore down the flip chart paper and I said, okay, let's start from scratch. If the outcome is getting a great assistant, tell me, if you could have anything that you wanted, what would you want to see in this service? They said, Tim, we want you to hire, Colby screen, match, onboard, train, and provide ongoing support to assistants so that we can basically just get an assistant prepackaged and placed on our plate, ready to rock. I scribbled notes furiously, taking note of every single suggestion that they had, and brought that home with me eagerly back to Canada. And ever since then, that's been the basis of our Great Assistant program. Talk about incredibly powerful getting customer feedback. Since then, I've used the exact Net Promoter Score question that I'm about to show you here today to even further enhance our program. The Net Promoter Score question is, on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate our product? Or you might swap it in for our service, our investment, your experience, whatever fits best for you. The people who invented the Net Promoter Score tested the NPS with countless different call centers, businesses, products, and services. In fact, they even wrote this amazing book about their experience. The authors are Fred Reichheld and Rob Markey. Reichheld and Markey discovered that usually when people said 6 out of 10, what they were actually meaning was like 2 out of 10. They were just too polite to tell the full truth. They discovered that when people said 7 or 8, although that sounded fairly positive, ultimately, people were feeling fairly neutral. And if a competing company came along and offered a better price or better terms, people who'd said 7 or 8 were pretty quick to flock to the better deal. The 9s and 10s though, on the other hand, holy smokes. They were incredible fans, raving fans even, of the company. And those that oftentimes said 9 wanted to say 10, but they said 9 just because in their opinion, nothing in life is ever a 10 out of 10. And so Reichheld and Markey developed the Net Promoter System, and we see it here on the wall. They've discovered that anybody who rates you 0 to 6 is actually a detractor, somebody who's saying some pretty harsh things behind your back. 7 and 8 is considered a neutral. and 9 and 10 is called a promoter. Now, the way that NPS is calculated is radically different than your classic average customer rating. Let's say for a moment you ask 10 customers the Net Promoter Score question. From there, let's say one customer rated you a 6, one customer rated you a 10, and everybody else rated you an 8, right in the middle. So if we look at this, we would have 1 detractor, we would have 8 neutrals, and we would have 1 promoter. 10 points, 8 times 8, and 1 times 6. If we do some quick math, that works out to 80 points divided by 10 respondents for an average score of 8.0. Not too bad. There's a really big problem with that though. If 8 out of your 10 customers fall into this neutral range, that means 80% of your customers would go away if they had a better price or a better set of terms offered to them by a competitor. And that is just way too shaky of a way to build your business. To highlight this, the authors came up with this formula. Net Promoter Score equals percentage of promoters minus percentage of detractors. Now, if you notice, the neutrals don't appear anywhere in there, and that's for good reason. Because we can't count on the neutrals to stick around, they're basically dropped out. When we say in our example that 1 out of your 10 respondents were promoters, that means 10% were promoters and 1 out of 10 were detractors, so that's also 10%. If we take 10% minus 10%, your Net Promoter Score is 0. And that represents just how strong your connection is with your customers. And this is where the second half of the question kicks in and makes a massive difference for us. After you've asked customers on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate our product, our service, or your most recent customer service experience, and they give you a number, then at that point you ask a second follow-up question, which simply says, what is your main reason for giving us that score? Let's take an e-commerce company as an example. Let's say you own that e-commerce company and you call this detractor and you say, I'm curious, what inspired you to give us this 6? They might say to you, hey, I love your product, I love your brand, I love your mission, I love everything about you, but my shipment just came late and I can't stand for that. Well, guess what? Now you can do something about that. You can talk to your shipping company, you can go down to the warehouse, see what's going on, see if there's any roadblocks and bottlenecks in your production. Now you're in control to actually make a difference. And when you do improve that shipping time, it's actually gonna affect everybody. Maybe this detractor will then become a neutral, and maybe 4 of these neutrals loved you as well, but they were also upset about the shipping time. And maybe a few of them, once they start getting their shipments quickly, then bump up to becoming promoters. And look what happens if all we do is move that detractor up. This here that is detractors now becomes 0% detractors. And if we get even 3 neutrals that bump up, that now means we have 30% promoters. And now NPS has jumped from 0 all the way up to 30, just on one single insight into shipping times of all things. It's not just the detractors that can give you gold though. When you ask the neutrals for their main reason, some of them might say, oh, I really like you guys, and that's it. But others might tell you, hey, I would have loved to give you a 9 or 10, but when I got my box in the mail, it was damaged. Amazing, you're back in the game, more insight on how you can get better. And off you go, down to the shipping facility, down to your warehouse, reviewing how much bubble wrap are we putting in, how many popcorn chips are in the box to help prevent that from happening. And once again, you now get to get better and better. And the more that your customers climb up, your Net Promoter Score goes up, and now you get to hold on to customers, not just for a transaction or two, but possibly for life. When you think of how hard you worked and the amount of money that you spent to acquire customers, holy smokes, all of a sudden you realize Net Promoter Score is one of the most inexpensive ways you can ever build your business. One single question, 2 parts, and maybe 5 minutes of speaking with a customer. And if you get lucky, you'll end up on the phone for 20 minutes with a customer when they just start ranting and raving and unloading and giving you all this gold as to how you can get better and better and better. It's absolutely amazing. Heck, even when the promoters start ranting and raving in good ways about you, you can take note of what is it that they're so happy about. And if there's one single thing that keeps coming up again and again and again, you better make that show up in your marketing. So this is not just an operations play, this is a way to maximize that connection between what you're doing, what you're offering, and what your customers really, really want. So once again, here's the question in both parts. Number one, on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate our company or our product, our service, your most recent transaction, your most recent customer service experience, whatever that is? And once you get a number from your customer, the next thing you ask is, that's great, thank you. What is your main reason for giving us that rating today? And I'd like you to literally pick up the phone and call 5 customers in the next few days. I know that may sound crazy or unorthodox, and especially if you're an internet business owner, maybe it seems terrifying. Wow, I actually have to call real people. They're not just clicks and opt-ins on my website. Yeah, you do. So that's the Net Promoter Score question, one of the most powerful 80/20 questions I've ever come across in my entrepreneurial career. If you like this kind of question, be sure to subscribe. Once a week, I send out a new 80/20 question of the week to really help you accelerate your business growth. And if you really like the 80/20 rule and want to be a part of our 80/20 challenge, consider joining us. It's something that we do week in and week out. All you need to do is head over to profitfactory.com/club. There, you'll see a Buy Now button to become a member of our Profit Factory Builders Club. Once you're a member of the club, it's no extra charge to join us in our 80/20 challenge. Whether you join us or not, thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you here. And remember, I'm cheering you on as you build your company. Onwards and upwards.